The storm of debris and ash was still settling as I walked to Ground Zero the night of September 11th. The first collapsed building I saw was Tower 7, not one of the pair of skyscrapers. This building was 2 blocks from the Twin Towers and fell several hours after they had. These firefighters had come from Connecticut. As they left, one of them turned to me and said very, very quietly, "May God be with you." Rescue workers were still looking for survivors, but some had a chance to pause, take a deep breath, and reflect. A lot of the people I saw seemed like they were still just trying to absorb what had happened. It was just past midnight and it was relatively quiet. What I'd heard on TV before leaving Montreal in the morning, the sounds of the planes hitting the buildings collapsing, the yelling and the screaming, all those things seemed surreal. Those regular people were now outside the perimeter, so construction workers and rescuers could dig. These workers that I saw were grim and quiet, but they had a job to do. The perimeter created a kind of bubble, and not seeing any mourners after such a huge event made it feel like it couldn't have just happened. It seemed like we were in a destroyed city, but one that had been abandoned a long time ago. I was still a freelance photographer at the time, working regularly for Agence France Presse. I'd been in my apartment in Montreal when a colleague called with the news. I immediately called AFP's Washington headquarters to see where I might be useful. They asked me to drive down and provide overnight coverage at the site. I picked up Jean-Louis Panis, our Montreal bureau chief, and we headed south, discussing the tragedy and its implications as we went. These are my pictures and some of my notes from that night. I met some AFP colleagues in uptown Manhattan to talk about logistics, then made my way on foot to the site, splitting up from another photographer, John Motern. It took me a few hours to actually reach the site. Before leaving home in Montreal, I'd asked myself whether there'd be any other attacks and what shape those attacks might take. I'd packed a gas mask, thinking that perhaps there'd be a poison gas cloud. There were clouds of dust from the fires instead. Even those clouds, though, carried some pretty toxic stuff. My face burned for weeks after the attacks from whatever I'd been exposed to, and some people died because of that dust. A rescue worker on the site gave me a cloth mask. A construction worker, seeing my cameras, asked how I was making out with the photos and offered me a construction helmet from a nearby box of supplies. Getting into New York, then inside the perimeter, hadn't been easy. Many of my colleagues didn't get in at all that night. It was only inside the innermost perimeter that my presence as a photographer was accepted. Even then, drawing unwanted attention to myself would probably get me kicked out. I was always weighing who was around me, how they might react to me shooting, and how much and for how long I would stand out trying to make a picture. Around 2 a.m. I found an emptied fast food restaurant and filed some pictures. A probation officer from a district outside Manhattan stuck his head into the restaurant, saw me working, and we struck up a conversation. He didn't have a specific task to do that night, and he decided to accompany me for the rest of the evening. I finished filing, we walked around for a while before deciding to go to the top of a nearby building. It was about 30 stories high and it was deserted. The elevator was broken, so we took the stairs. I shot from the roof for the entire dawn. Workers were using blowtorches to cut apart the remains of the building, and firemen were still spraying the wreckage with water. We went our separate ways around 7 the next morning, just as the day shift of construction workers and rescue workers came in. I walked some blocks to a subway and got on, sat in the corner by the doors, and kind of hid my cameras under the construction helmet. I wasn't really aware of the people around me, but someone getting off a few stops after I got on asked, "Are you working at the site?" I hadn't really thought about what I must have looked like, but I was covered in dust, and maybe that and the construction helmet made them figure I was a construction worker. No, I said, "I'm just going back to my hotel and trying to get some rest. I'm exhausted. I've been up all night." They looked at me and they put their hand on my shoulder and they said, "You guys are doing such a good job. Take care of yourself." Someone else who must have overheard got up, put their hand on my shoulder too, and they said, "Take care." And somebody else got up and came over and put their hand on my shoulder and said, "Bless you." Maybe they noticed I was a photographer, or maybe they thought I was a construction worker, but either way, I was too choked up to say a word. These are the kinds of regular people who were really affected that day. On my way down, radio talk shows were filled with calls for Arab blood. Jean-Louis and I had talked about how this attack might be used for some legitimate and some not so legitimate ends by the administration. But up to that point, trying to force myself to relate the enormity of the event with the individuals making the death toll more than an abstract figure hadn't worked. With just a few words, those subway riders changed that.